We're on the air.
That's a quick agenda.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 6:30, and I'll call our regular meeting of the City Council to order. It is our tradition to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have announcements for our upcoming meetings. We have council meetings scheduled for Tuesday, March 20th and Tuesday, April 3rd. At 6:30 p.m., and we have a work session scheduled for Tuesday, March 13th at 6:30 p.m. All meetings are held here in the council chambers. The next item on the agenda is citizens' comments. This is the opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the council on an item that is not on the printed agenda and not an application form that will be coming before us at a future date. Is there anyone who wishes to address the council? Is that item on the agenda, or is that something different? Something different. Oh, please come forward and give us your name and address for the record. Yes, please.
My name is Mary Dyer. I live at 14624 Green Ridge Lane in Burnsville. Although I would like to think this is related to tonight's agenda item, it is not. It is regarding the construction at the B.F. Goodrich Company off of South Cross to the north, between South Cross and County Road 42. I live right across the street from there. When we built our house 26 years ago, almost 27 years ago, there was a nice screen of green trees separating us from B.F. Goodrich. Right now, if I could pass these down, these are photographs from my living room window, my dining room window, and my bedroom window, where I have a lovely view of a sea of cars in the B.F. Goodrich parking lot. I can see all the way to County Road 42, which is 4/10 of a mile from my house. And when this started happening, I called the city, and I was told that they have a planting plan that they would institute as part of this project. Mm-hmm. You can see the planting plan, or the lack of it. And so I'm here sort of because I feel like if we are going to be paying for a project, I would like that the other people that build in Burnsville and affect the residents and the areas around them, you know, they benefited, but this is a huge disbenefit. I feel like my property value has declined because of this.
Okay, so the trees were on Goodrich property, and
Yes.
we'll have our staff take a look at this again.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Dyer. And then the next one, yes, please come forward and give us your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is Greg Boone. I live at 1408 Irving Lane in Burnsville. I don't think this is pending anything, but it has been a topic of discussion at past city council meetings for the last more than a decade. So I'll just get started. Thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. The council recently revisited the idea that the city should partner with the Boys and Girls Club of the Twin Cities. Councilman Keeley at recent meetings implied that the garage is not a community center, not serving the youth of Burnsville, and has no measurable record of success. Surely he formed these ideas through his role as liaison to the Garage Advisory Board and conversations with community members about how the garage became the facility that it is today. Surely he started with the community center itself when trying to determine what services it can provide. That is, after all, the kind of diligent research we should expect of our elected officials. What is puzzling is how, after all that research, he could possibly draw the conclusion that the garage isn't good enough and that its staff cannot provide, quote, what kids want, how to help kids, and how to mentor kids. What makes the garage distinctive is that it is directed by its members. It is built on an ethos not just of engagement, but of empowerment. For empirical proof of this, you need only look to May 27, 2009, when about 100 teenage supporters of the Garage attended a city council meeting after making it clear in a letter to the city council that they did not want to have their savings touched. Or your work session last month, when the youth of Burnsville filled the chairs of this chamber. A city should be so lucky to have such civically empowered youth. The Garage is different, and it works. I was frankly appalled by the council's discourse on November 15th and further aggravated on February 14th. I was appalled that such bizarre conclusions were being drawn. I was appalled at the insinuation that the Garage needed to demonstrate a, quote, return on investment in order for it to be a worthwhile asset to our community. But since Councilwoman Sherry asked for a return on investment, the mayor and council need only recall that in November 2004, while I was a member of the Garage Advisory Board, we repaid a $15,000 loan to the city of Burnsville, a loan that was never expected to be repaid. Today, the Garage operates with 25% of its revenue coming from the city, and in 2009, it had accrued $75,000 in savings. That is an amazing monetary return for a city service run by a small group of people. The real return, however, is much more valuable. I've met people from around the United States and around the world, and I've yet to hear of a community with a place like the Garage. Many of these people who grew up in other cities, some with city pools and after-school programs, but none of them experienced the kind of direct engagement that we have at the Garage. The only reason I can come up with that Councilman Keeley could draw the conclusions he did on November 15th about our community center is because he has never taken the time to become a part of it. The only reason Councilwoman Sherry asks for an ROI is because she has never taken the time to witness and understand the good works the Garage does on an hourly basis. The Garage is preparing the youth of Burnsville for lives of passionate civic engagement, creative inquiry, and community building. Success at the Garage is the professional musicians, civil servants, college and graduate students, scientists, teachers, and members of the United States military who all passed through its doors while they were in middle and high school. Success is the youth who come out to city council meetings to ensure the Garage will continue to be here after they are gone. Success is the parents who fondly remember the Garage among the only places in the city where bullying was not tolerated. Success is the 16-year-old who helped write a grant at the Garage. Success is the 15-year-old who found safety at the Garage. Success is the 14-year-old who found the Garage instead of the gang. Success is the countless teenagers who face daily their inner fears and prejudices and reach out to understand someone different at the Garage. I agree that our city should broaden its youth services, and organizations like the Boys and Girls Club of America do wonderful things. But to suggest, as Councilman Keeley did, that the Garage needs to be, quote, in the hands of experts in order to stay open ignores the hardworking entrepreneurial attitude that is the brick and mortar of everything they do. The Garage is a service that takes time and energy to appreciate. Its rewards are neither immediate nor obvious. But to suggest, as Councilman Coughlin has, that the Garage cannot do anything valuable in its after-school programs is a direct insult to the hundreds of current and past community members, myself included, who would not be the people they are today without the Garage. Thank you.
Mr. Boone, thank you for coming and talking to us, and I want you to know that all of us sitting up here really value the work that has been done, and I know because I know you from the Garage and the work that you have done there, that you're one of those alumni of the Garage, if you will. And what we want to make sure is that the Garage is sustained, not just for the next 3 years or 5 years, but beyond, and to expand its reach. And the work and the foundation that you all have built and the values that you all have established at the Garage, my hope that we grow on that and strengthen it. And therefore, the youth who are there now and are part of the advisory board at the Garage are at the table because we want to make sure that that culture continues, that culture of empowerment that we have started from the very beginning. And your coming forward today tells us that you cherish that and treasure that, and you don't want to see that lost. And I don't believe that that's lost to any of us. And at those meetings, we heard that very loud and clear. And it is my sincere dedication, and I believe that my colleagues as well, is that we build on that success. And Councilmember Keeley.
Thank you. Well, I'm impressed. I'm glad that you came and spoke. Your passion for the garage, going back to 2004 when you were on the GAB board, and to today is commended. I just watched the replay of the work session that we had recently at my home again, and got to see it. The discussion, not being at the table, but watching it, and I'm not in full agreement that you are quoting some of the statements necessarily the way and in the context they were, but I will restate. I know.
Busily transcribing.
It was actually a very good speech. You did a great job. I think, and I just want to highlight my comments that echo really the mayor. I remember speaking, now that I saw it myself again, it's easier to remember, reiterating over and over again, and I think many of us did that night, we are not materially changing what the garage does today. We're preserving the GAB, we're preserving the music, we're preserving the programs after school. By partnering with the Boys and Girls Club, we're going to expand the age groups down to age 5, up to 18, and we are going to expand the programming, and we're going to offer the youth and the kids that go there an opportunity to go to the Voyager Camp. They'll be part of statewide competitions that the Boys and Girls Club, if they choose to, have. They'll be part of nationwide competitions. So it's, I know it's difficult. I mean, it's, the garage is very unique and it's very special. And so I think that's really why we said, we want to take everything that is being done there that's successful for the kids that attend, and the music and the after-school programming, and we want to make it bigger. We want to make it bigger because I really want, I know my fellow council member Gustafson a couple years ago when I first pitched this idea is interested. We don't really have a community center. We have a senior center, and we have the garage, but we don't have anything from a community center that offers an opportunity for kids down the age of 5 to go to an after-school place, like I did when I went to the Boys and Girls Club in my hometown. And so we wanted to broaden the reach and build upon, and all of this is built upon the success of the garage and enhancing what it can offer to a larger age group in a bigger facility. And all that aside, I have to reiterate what Madam Mayor said. We've come through some tough years as a council, and the garage has come through some very tough years. A couple of years ago, the finances were struggling. The number of days that it was open got reduced to 3. That's not what I wanted to see. That's not what any of us wanted to see. It needs to be open 5 days a week, every day there's school and every day through the summer. There should never be a reduction of 4 down to 3, number of days, because what did you do on those days that it wasn't open? Wouldn't you have rather gone there again and, have it open? So in the interest of making sure that the facility is open 5 days a week and weekends for concerts and all throughout the summer, and ensure that we no longer go through those years of just a couple years ago where it was a struggle. Grants were shrinking, funds were shrinking, budgets were shrinking for the city and the garage. What we're structuring here is a sustainable funding mechanism that can provide the garage and the Boys and Girls Club that will essentially be built around the garage, literally actually around where the existing garage is, to ensure that it will always be open. And the programs will stay, the music will stay, there'll be more programs, there'll be more kids benefiting, there'll be more, from your perspective, if I were you, there'll be more kids 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 now exposed to what the garage is about because they'll be participating in a Boys and Girls Club area. And so you're basically, providing, 5 years from now, more youth attending the garage, more GAB members, more involvement. And so I hope that you'll open up your mind to what we really are trying to do and not look at the process, because the process is, we churn through a lot of stuff. And when you see everything, you may not get the real spirit of what we're trying to do, and certainly what I'm trying to do. And so I hope that explaining it again tonight will help clarify that. And I'd be more than happy. My daughter goes to the garage. I'd be more than happy to meet with you and anyone else and sit down and talk through what we're working on. The meeting we just had with the GAB board members on the actual design of the facility, they're telling us this needs to be bigger, that needs to be smaller, we need this in there, we need that in there. And so the involvement is very acute by the GAB board, and I think that's to their credit. They should be. So I'd be happy to meet with you anytime and talk more about it.
Appreciate it.
And thank you, Mr. Boone, for coming. And I know that some of the skills that has been taught at the garage, because I know when you all are up at the legislature also testifying, you have all learned great speaking skills, and I thank you for that. I really appreciate your coming forward and talking to us about this and sharing your thoughts. Councilmember Sherry.
I have only one thing to add to underscore what the mayor and Councilmember Keeley said. You zeroed in on my concern for return on the investment. Look at this chambers. It's almost full tonight. And these are people who are very, very concerned about how their tax money is used. And my sense of what we invest in that facility has to reach the most kids, or these people out here are not going to be happy. And that's why I do think that this concept of going is how can we do better with the resources we have.
And I hope that when the council tabulates a return on investment from the garage, they take into account the quality of the investment that's been returned already and has been since 1999, and not simply the quantity of people coming through the door.
Absolutely.
And you make a very good point. Councilmember Keeley?
If I can follow up, that is a great point. Sitting in the garage advisory board meetings just the other day talking about that, I'm civically involved. Obviously, we all are. To sit with Southmore students who are participating in their own local government, essentially, with the board is thrilling. It's great to see. I look around the room and I saw 10, 12, 13, 15-year-old kids that were having a board meeting, essentially, that was conducted in an organized fashion. They were participating and enjoying it. And they were learning, what I didn't learn at that age. I mean, I wasn't involved civically when I was 10, 12, 15 years old. I'm thrilled. They're future leaders. And the Boys and Girls Club does all of that exact same thing. I mean, that's why this fits so well, is the Garage Advisory Board will continue to live on in the same form that it is performing at today, and developing the same future civic leaders that the Garage Advisory Board has done. So I think it's exciting in a lot of ways, because it's really a lot of the same thing. So
I'd like to add that I wrote the Constitution for the Garage Advisory Board.
Oh, very good.
And well done. Well done. And so thank you so much for coming and speaking to us.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime. Anyone else? Please come forward and give us your name and address for the record.
Seems to me I've been here before.
Yeah, you look familiar.
Madam Mayor and members of the City Council and staff, this is an agenda item. It's regarding the rebuilding of Pleasant Avenue. I just wanted to extend on, I'm a resident of...
It's on the agenda,
It's
and
on-
so there will be a public hearing on it.
Yes, but
And then you can speak at that time.
I just wanted to comment on the one upcoming, if I might.
If it's coming up, you have the opportunity to speak on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Not at this time?
not at this time. It's coming, and there will be a public hearing. This is for items that are not on the printed agenda and not in application form that will be coming before us at a future date. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council? Okay. And an item that is not on the agenda? Yes, thank you. And your name and address for the record.
Bim Jaman, 14131 Park Avenue South, Burnsville. Good night, everybody. I'm here for talk for a couple things beside the agenda for tonight for the street development. I would like to say a couple things here that I don't really too pleased about the city council, the way they're running business in Burnsville. And I'm very disappointed with the
Okay.
fact that and the mayor, I don't want to really embarrass you, but I have called about over the last several years, came into the office here,
Yes,
and I believe I talked, my wife, you have called to my wife
Yes.
at home, I don't know if you recall.
return phone calls, yes.
And the response I got from people that live in my street,
And talk about the issue that you're addressing, sir.
the issue I'm talking about, okay, is that the renters, they keep the place very obnoxious. I live on 14131 Park Avenue South. I spend a lot of money on keeping the place up to date. And I have a lot of neighbors here that are here tonight to talk about it, but I'm more of a kind of representing them. And nothing has been done, period. And it seems like I'm paying more taxes than before to fix problems that is not really required.
And this has to do with property maintenance, sir.
Yes,
Yes, and I know that our staff, because you have, and there is a process, and I think we have tried to talk with you about that process when there is a property maintenance violation. And when you submit the complaint, then our inspectors go out and look at the property, and then there is a citation. And I'm going to go to our attorney, and we will go through the process because there is a legal process that we go through. And I know that it is frustrating, and we are working very hard now with the legislature to see that we can have a better and more expeditious way of exercising that particular law. But Mr. Jamnik, if you can just help him understand that it is a very protracted process that we have. So,
Mayor and Council, in summary, prior to the issuance of a citation upon a citizen complaint, the property will be inspected by city code inspection staff for building code violations, property maintenance code violations, and other violations. If violations are found to exist, a compliance letter will be sent to the property owner asking for voluntary compliance. There's a requisite period of time that we give depending on the nature of the violation for the property owners. In some cases, if progress is made, a supplemental corrective action letter will be sent. Eventually, if the property owner does not comply voluntarily, a citation will be issued. That process usually will entail several months of prosecution in the criminal court system because of the framework or the schedule that is set. So it can occur frequently that from the time someone complains, if we don't get voluntary compliance, it may be a year or two before the ultimate resolution of that criminal violation. Usually as a condition of the sentencing order, the judge will specify that unless things are done within a period of time selected by the judge, the person will go to jail, or in other situations that there will be a fine levied, sometimes both. But that is the mechanism we have right now when we do avail ourselves of actually issuing a citation. That is the beginning of the criminal justice process, and that can take, in some cases, at least 6 months to a year to work its way through the court system.
okay, let's make this very, I understand the explanation, but I don't need all this.
yeah, the thing is, we
Long story.
understand your
No, no,
frustration
no, no.
because we're frustrated with, but we are bound
Listen
by
to
the
me here.
law.
Listen what I'm saying, okay? This is being on for 2 years. I've lived in a property for 33 years, okay? I have friends that in this thing here right now. It's not like 2 or 3 years. It's been going on for many years. I don't like the check and balance on you and the city council. It's like you people are buying time, like 2 to 3 months. I spend, if you want my property right now, I have a neighbor here, Chris Carpone. I have a lot of neighbors. I spend a lot of money on my property, on 1412, money to make my property look very nice. But then you people try to, it's like a prolonged stuff. Yeah, you might put a citation, it doesn't, well, summer is a very short period. And to my belief, honestly, I'll put it honest, you people don't do very much as you should be doing. That's flat out. Okay? I've lived in this country for 34 years. Okay? I pay my fair share of taxes. I'm not having a good return from the city of Burnsville. All right? And I need better response from the mayor and the city council. And to me, you people are not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Number two, I use Nicolette to go to work every day. All right? I don't know who is the engineer, who is responsible for that. Okay? When I take Nicolette, there's a left turn going to 13. I'm sure there's a lot of people that call and complain. Excuse me. That call and complain on the extreme left. You guys have the medium so wide and flowers, and I don't know what makes the stuff so important. There's so much black up on the extreme right, they cannot even get into it, to the left lane on the extreme to go into 13. There are 2 or 3 cars waiting for the light to turn left, but guess what? It's not happening. So why don't you do something? I'm sure you guys have to know about it.
We are doing something about that.
Well, do something about it. All right?
Sir, we are. And the thing
I'm
is,
hoping you will.
13 is a state highway, and we have to negotiate with the state, and that is on the reconstruction and rehabilitation and
Well, you gotta
improvements this
put
year.
Put the negotiation, far behind and do something what you're going to be doing. That's all I'm saying about. All right?
Right?
And as far as the street, I'm not kidding you. It took you guys so long over the years to fix the street. And I don't know why I have to pay this much money to fix the street. All right? I've been paying taxes. I don't have any kids. I've been paying taxes for 32 years, and I don't know why I have to pay this much money to fix the street. Because I'm getting to a point right now, should I move out of Burnsville or what? I think you and I had a good conversation on this some time ago.
Yes, we did. And I told you that we have a process when we're looking at street reconstruction. We're doing that tonight. We can only do so much each year because we only have so much money to expend on street reconstruction and street rehabilitation. So I understand your frustration with streets. And the other thing is that, as I shared with you, there are streets that are under our jurisdiction, there are streets that are under the county's jurisdiction, and there are streets that are under the state's jurisdiction. And some of those we have no authority over, but they're in our city. And we work with them when they need to be rehabilitated and reconstructed. So these are things that are layered. And as I shared with you, we can handle the work that we need to do with the streets that we own. But when we have to negotiate with the state on Highway 13, that's a big frustration. It's always a frustration for us when we're working with the state. The state has more miles of street to work with than we do. So I appreciate your coming tonight and talking about your frustration. We are trying to work with the legislature to give us more tools so that we can address the property maintenance issues. And we're going through the legislature right now, and sometimes it takes us 2 and 3 years to even get a bill through, because when it happens in Burnsville, it's going to happen in other cities. So these are laws that when the legislature acts, then it affects all the other cities and not just Burnsville. So that's part of the work that we have to do. But it doesn't mean that we're not acting. It means that we're finding tools and working with other bodies that have more, that have governance over us. We are enabled by the state legislature and are governed by the state statutes, as I shared with you before. So, Councilmember Sherry, I saw your hand up.
Well, I just wanted to be sure that on the property maintenance issue, that the neighbors who've been complaining about this property know where we are in this process. I think if I were in a neighborhood where there was a property that obviously is in such bad shape, I understand you have to go through all these steps because that's state law. But it would be helpful if the neighbors knew where they were in the process, so that at least they would know that we haven't forgotten about them.
Yeah. And I think our staff does follow up with the complainant.
All right.
But I think we'll have Mr. Ebling take a look at that process within our administration. But thank you.
I'm going to say one more thing. The next time I called to your office here, because I don't want to hear this check and balance business.
Well, that's what it is.
No, I don't want to be rude. I'm very flattered tonight because I've never came out here and talk about my concern. Because over the last 4 or 5 years, I have people here, my neighbors, we had the same concern. And it's all I hear about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, the summer is gone and nothing is being done. And then it comes back to the next turnaround, winter has come and summer has come along. And it's the same old story. So it seems like, honestly, I don't mean to be rude, but the city council, include you mayor, it seems like you guys are buying a lot of time and let time go by. And that's all I have to say. And the next time around, I'm going to take drastic action, okay, and calling different people to make sure. Because if you people are being voted or non-voted to do a job, I need to understand what your job responsibilities are and what your obligation is as far as serving the community. Because I'm very frustrated and I'm getting it's intolerable. Honestly, I'm sick or tired of it. I've lived in the place for 34 years as a foreigner. And I think I pay enough taxes. I don't have any kids. I support the cause of the city of Burnsville. And you people have to listen and understand tonight that many of us are very frustrated. And I don't think, I'm not going to condemn your jobs, but you can't just sit back and assume, that life is, I don't know where people live. You people are living in rich neighborhoods, which I don't know.
Sir, Park
No.
Avenue is a nice neighborhood where you live.
No, it's not anymore.
And
There's so much crime in my neighborhood. So much violence, fight. It's a drag-down street I lived, which you people don't know. I have people here can testify that. But when I'm trying as a person to correct the problem, help to make sure that my street is non-violent, it's not getting any better. And you can draw me into any close concession, any session with my neighbors, I will tell you that. All right, so I'm going to close this conversation to make sure you people understand we need to live in a neighborhood where there is peace and harmony.
very good. And I know that you have a neighbor that you don't believe is taking very good care of their property. So
Not one. There's several neighbors.
Yes. So our city manager is taking notes, and we will review those items again, and we'll let you know and give you an update.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember
I just have
Coughlin.
one question. Who would you raise your hands of all the people that are with this gentleman?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we understand, and so we'll find out, and then we'll understand how many of those neighbors that you have are in violation. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else who has an item that you want to speak to us about? Okay, come forward and give us your name and address for the record. And this is not on the printed agenda, correct?
Right.
Okay.
It's just something really short.
Sure.
Cindy Treb, and I actually live on Park Avenue also, 14241. And just in the same area, there's a house that had a house fire, I think, 3 summers ago.
Okay.
And that house is still sitting there, half burned. Nothing has been done with it. It's been empty. It's got holes in the, the snow, rain, everything comes in.
Okay. Is it abandoned?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's been there for quite a while. You guys are in Park Avenue. Do you know the address? You know which one I'm talking about?
Okay.
Yeah. So just to throw that out, maybe look into it. It's closer
We'll have
down
our
by
staff
Echo Park
out.
School. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Streb. Anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing no one else, we will move on. The next item on the agenda is emergency items only to be added to the final agenda. Mr. Ebling, are there any emergency items?
None from staff, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Members of the council, any emergency items? Very good. We'll move on. The next is the consent agenda, and this is a grouping of items that's considered to be routine and is enacted with one motion. However, an item on the consent agenda can be removed for a separate discussion and vote. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes an item on the consent agenda to be removed for a separate discussion and vote? Mr. Ebling?
None from staff, Madam Mayor.
Members of the council? May I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Councilmember Coughlin makes the motion, second by Councilmember Sherry. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. We now move on to the regular agenda. The first item on the regular agenda is a public hearing. And this is to consider a resolution to order the project and to approve the plans and specifications and order the advertisements for the 2012 street reconstruction project, the 2012 park bituminous improvement, the 2012 street repair of water main and contract patching, the Cliff Road surfacing project, maintenance center parking lot resurfacing, the Nicollet Avenue Highway 13 right turn lane improvement, and the 143rd St. Street Park Avenue phosphorus reduction project. And presenting tonight is Mr. Peterson, our city engineer. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. As you stated, this is our annual public hearing and where the council considers ordering our street reconstruction and rehabilitation projects. I'll go through the process overview, how we've gotten to this point and what will be coming up next, a project overview, go over special assessment methodology, and then I'd like to point out that there are two public hearings, one for the street reconstruction and then one for the street rehabilitation, which will be afterwards. If you look on this slide, in September 11th, the council ordered our study be started. We completed the survey work and preliminary plans. We had a neighborhood meeting in January. We took notes and from property owners, completed our study. At this point, we've completed our plans. Right now, we're right at the March 2012 council meeting where the public hearing will be. Should these move forward, we'll bid the project. In April, they'll be up for consideration of award. In May, we have another neighborhood meeting when we have more information on the schedule and who the contractor might be, that sort of thing. Construction should also begin in May in most of the areas. In August, the assessment letters will be mailed. September would be the second public hearing for assessments. After that meeting, there's 30 days to pay in full without interest. Otherwise, the city will finance the assessments for the property owners. And then by October, construction work should be substantially complete. But we hope to have most of the paving done prior to our meeting in September. So this would be the...
You can't hear him? If our, in the control room, I don't know if the speaker's outside. Okay. We'll have the control. Can you hear? Or are you not hearing? Marginal?
Is it any better at this point?
Is it getting better?
I am the appropriate distance away from the microphone. It's just a AV issue. Can you people hear it much better?
Is it better now?
Excellent.
Okay. The control room is increasing the volume. Thank you. Mr. Peterson, please.
All right. Would you like me to go through the past two slides again? Or
Yes, I think so that they understand where we're at. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. The agenda is we'll go through the process overview, we'll go through the project overview, discuss special assessment methodology, and then there'll be two separate public hearings, one for street reconstruction and then another one for rehabilitation. This is the process overview. In September, the council ordered the study. We completed the survey work and preliminary plans. We had a neighborhood meeting in January, took notes from the property owners, completed our study and plans. At this point, we're right at the March council meeting where the project is being considered for approval. Should it go forward, we would bid them out, and then in April, you'd be considering the award of the projects. May, we would have a second neighborhood meeting where we have a lot more information for the residents.
The control, Mr. Hanson, can you tell the control room that the gentleman in the back can't hear? And this is way in the back. So if there's a way that they can increase the volume, please. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Otherwise, I guess I can try to speak up even more.
If you
perhaps.
can.
Okay. So then, in May, the neighborhood meeting would be the second neighborhood meeting, where we would have much more information for the residents, for their information. We'd also have construction beginning in most of our projects. The assessment letters would then be mailed in August. September would be the second public hearing, where assessments would be considered. At that point, residents have 30 days to pay. Otherwise, the city will finance the project over a period of years to make the project more affordable. And then by October, most of the work should be substantially complete, although we do expect most of the paving work to be done by Labor Day. With that, this is the 2012 street reconstruction project, 101 A, B, C, D, E, and F. Those project numbers are Pleasant area is 12-101A, Woodland area 101B, Wood Park North area 101C, Interlochen Woods area 101D, 137th Street area 101E, Parkwood Drive area 101F, and then all the other miscellaneous projects that we talked about. What is street reconstruction? The street work is recycling and removing existing pavement and gravel base, a brand new pavement section, including all of the gravel down a foot below the level that it is today, will be provided. We only replace all of the curb where water main is being replaced on residential width streets. Otherwise, we just replace spot curb and gutter where it's either damaged or has to be brought out for a different construction purpose. So if there's water main being replaced inside a residential street, there'll be all brand new curb. Other areas, most of the curb would remain in place. We also look at the sidewalks and make curb ramp repairs and that sort of thing for Americans with Disability Act. Utility work. These projects also have a lot of underground utility work where the water main is older style cast iron pipe. We replace that with ductile iron. We also fix the hydrants up. We either replace them or we put Storrs nozzle adapters on them at this time for a faster fire department reaction time. We have televised all the sewer mains, and we repair those as they need to be repaired. Storm sewer replacement, we study the hydraulics of how our drainage system works and replace, extend, expand as we need to. Street lighting, we have one project this year on Parkwood Drive where we'll be replacing all the lighting north of 132nd Street, so that'd be the north half of that project. Otherwise, we look at the street lights in the area and have those repaired as necessary. With that, I'll get into the different project areas. This is the Pleasant area reconstruction 12-101A. That includes Pleasant Avenue from Burnsville Parkway up to Travelers Trail, and then Travelers Trail from Pleasant Avenue over to Pillsbury Avenue. I have pictures of these different areas showing why we're doing what we're doing. This is a picture of West Travelers Trail as it is today. Here's a picture of Pleasant Avenue, and one more of Pleasant Avenue. Woodland area reconstruction, that includes Valley High Road from Nicollet Lane over to its west cul-de-sac, Woodland Drive from Nicollet Lane over to Garfield Avenue, Ridge Road from Woodland Drive to Wentworth Avenue, Wentworth Avenue, Garfield Avenue from Valley High Road down to 136th Street West, Grand Avenue from Woodland Drive to 136th Street West, Pleasant Lane from Woodland Drive to 136th Street West, Elizabeth Lane from Woodland Drive to its southerly cul-de-sac, and Nicollet Lane from Timberland Drive down to 136th Street West. And this area is the area that's south of the Timberland area that we did back in 2009. I have pictures of this area as well. This is a picture of Nicollet Lane. This is a picture of Pleasant Lane, Woodland Drive, Elizabeth Lane, Wentworth Avenue, Ridge Road, Valley High Road, another picture of Valley High Road, and then we'll move on to the next area is Wood Park North area reconstruction. This area is south of 35E and east of Portland Avenue. It includes 143rd Street East from Portland Avenue to 143rd Court, including the north and south cul-de-sac. 143rd Court from 143rd Street to its northerly terminus. Park Avenue from 143rd Street east up to Evergreen Drive, including the east and west cul-de-sac. Park Place from Park Avenue to its easterly terminus. 143rd Lane from 143rd Street up to 11th Avenue, and then 11th Avenue from 143rd Street up to the northerly cul-de-sac. And then 3 cul-de-sacs on Park Avenue south of 143rd Street, 2 to the west and then 1 to the east. I'd also like to point out, you talked about the phosphorus reduction project that's being approved. Those, that's going to take place primarily in this area and in this area on Park Place. Basically, they're going to be doing a total maximum daily load study in Lake Alamagnet. Out of that study is going to be the city has to reduce its phosphorus to that area. The best way we can do that is by, when the streets are going to be opened up, is to do things in the street at that time. So those are the areas where you'll see a little different type of improvements beyond just the road. So there'll be infiltration areas and other methods of getting phosphorus out of the runoff. Pictures from that area: 143rd Street East, 143rd Street East. This is one of those cul-de-sacs. 143rd Street East Court. Park Avenue South. This probably isn't too far from where the discussion was taking place earlier. Here's a cul-de-sac, one of those cul-de-sacs on Park Avenue South. This is Park Avenue South up by the elementary school, just south of Evergreen Drive. This is 11th Avenue on the cul-de-sac on its northerly terminus. 143rd Lane East. And then this is a picture of one of those cul-de-sacs on Park Avenue south of 143rd Street. And then one more. Interlochen Woods area. This area is north of South Cross Drive. It includes Innsbrook Lane from South Cross Drive. Oops, wrong marker. Innsbrook Lane from South Cross Drive up to Geneva Boulevard. Geneva Boulevard from Innsbrook Lane to its westerly terminus. And Innsbrook Circle from Geneva Boulevard to its easterly terminus. I think maybe I misspoke. To its Geneva is to its westerly terminus. Pictures of this area. This is what Innsbrook Lane looks like. This is the southerly cul-de-sac, Innsbrook Circle. Another picture of Innsbrook Lane. One more. And then this is Geneva Boulevard. And then one more picture of that particular area. 137th Street area. This is right up at County Road 11. This is right by where the water main broke this past summer, right outside the city's maintenance center. The maintenance center is in this location, or the maintenance center parking lot is. So that's one short segment of road from the maintenance center up to County Road 11. But we are going to be replacing a lot of the water main in that area that broke, so we can try to avoid that area again. Now it's cast iron pipe. It's 20 feet into the ground. So I think people saw how big the hole has to be to fix that. So this, we'll be replacing that water main, hoping to reduce that risk to the city in the future. This is what that road looks like. One side's been all patched. Parkwood Drive area reconstruction. Parkwood Drive area reconstruction will be from Aspen Drive, which is just south of 130th Street, down to 134th Street, including the cul-de-sac. That's what it looks like today, or actually this last fall. I've driven this road since the spring, and this one looks considerably worse even than this now. Here's the cul-de-sac. All right, that's our different areas. I got a couple more slides on miscellaneous things with the projects, but here's the funding that's estimated to be necessary. About $2.1 million from the Infrastructure Trust Fund. That is tax dollars that have been set aside to fix up things that we own, such as our roads. State aid fund for streets was almost $700,000. Special assessments, almost $1.4 million. Water and sewer utility bonding, $2.6 million. Storm sewer fund, $365,000, and street light utility, $130,000, for a total of estimated cost of $7.3 million. If you put that onto a chart such as this, we typically show this for how much residents are paying. You know, it's under 20% of the total project when you consider the whole picture as far as assessments are concerned. Special assessments, how are they figured? They're based on 40% of the street costs. What we do is we set the rate yearly, and it's based upon the last year's last 3 years' costs of constructing similar projects. It's also based upon the street size needed for each parcel's land use. So if you have a residential street on a 4-lane road, you're not paying for that 4-lane road, you're paying for a 2-lane road that would be necessary to serve your property. Also, if you are a business on a road that's smaller than we're providing, we make an adjustment on our rate down to help offset. We're not making you pay more than that 40%. How is it implemented? It's implemented by the amount of footage adjacent to the street being reconstructed. So the rates per foot, you multiply it by the amount of feet, and that's how you figure out the total assessment. All other costs, the rest of the remaining street costs and the utility costs are paid through the city's enterprise funds and through the infrastructure trust fund. We don't have the situation on the bottom where there's additional features this year, so I won't get into that. We do finance the assessment costs. If it's less than $100, you have 1 year to pay it. Between $100 and $500, it's 5 years. $500 and over, it's 15 years. You do have to pay that with interest rate of 5%. The rates are $28.12 for a single-family parks and open space land use, $39.51 for multifamily and manufactured housing land uses, and $57.23 for all other land uses. Last year, I've been showing a graph for the last 5 or 6 years with some numbers. I know you requested maybe I update that a bit and try and get it to communities that are a little closer to us, so I attempted to do that. Savage to our west, their average cost per lot is about $4,800 for similar work. Egan, they have a different way of figuring it, but it's for how we figure it's about equivalent to 50% of the street work. Lakeville is very similar to us at 40%. Bloomington, once it's somewhat similar to Egan, but basically the translation is about $3,100 for similar work. And you may have read in the paper a few Sundays ago about the Edina situation. I just threw this in. The residents there are having to pay $10,000, $15,000 for real similar work, whereas the city pays zero of the cost in City of Edina, or the residents have to pay it all. So to compare to Burnsville, our rate is based on 40% of the cost, and the equivalent cost on an average 90-foot lot would be $2,530. So, we are on the lower end of assessments for these types of projects. One thing we're going to do this year, which we haven't done in the past, we got a new website, and there has some advantages to us. We will be having a better way of communicating progress on the projects. Residents will be able to sign up to get emails on a weekly basis, or whenever we send them out. Our website will be updated. So some of the complaints I get are, I don't know what's going to happen. You didn't tell me. We can't mail out to all 1,100 people, but this is going to be a great tool that will allow people to say, well, why hasn't it started yet? And we'll be able to tell people that and what's going to happen next. So we plan on updating those weekly. The links to all the web pages will be on the neighborhood meeting that we get out. I think there will be something on the front page of the website once we get closer to that time. So, public comments, we haven't received an email or a written letter from some resident who wanted you to see this ahead of time. So we haven't received any of those. One final note, and I promise this is done. Graduation parties, weddings, I want to know about it. So if you have situations where your senior in high school is graduating, you don't want us to ruin your party, please let me know. We will make the situation as palatable as possible. If we're right in the middle, I can't guarantee you're going to have a paved road, but we will make sure they aren't working in front of your house that day if it's on a weekend, and that it's as clean and parkable as possible. And then mail service, that does sometimes take place outside of the reconstruction areas. If the mail truck can't get through, the Postal Service will tell you about that. With that, this is the street reconstruction project public hearing 12-101 A, B, C, D, E, and F. And I would also state once again, if you're here for 12-102, 102 street rehabilitation, your chance is coming up. So please don't come up for this one. With that, I'm done.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Peterson? Thank you, Mr. Peterson. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on the item? Please come forward and give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Lauren Kuznin. I live on 14202 Park Avenue. And I have about 4 items here. I live on Park Avenue between Evergreen and 143rd, and it gets an extreme amount of heavy traffic I was wondering if it's going to be redesigned for heavier traffic than currently.
I don't think, Mr. Albrecht, Mr. Peterson, I don't think it's being redesigned for heavier loads. Is that correct?
The,
The
Madam Mayor,
streets?
council members, the road is being built as it would be today. There's no changes to try and reduce traffic or anything such as that.
Well, it's heavier traffic. Besides the garbage trucks that everybody gets, we get all kinds of access between the two streets.
At this point, it's the typical design that we do on residential streets, but we can take a look at your comment today.
Mr. Kuznin, if Mr. Peterson, you can talk with him about some of that in terms of what your concerns are with the traffic load.
All right. I just wanted to bring that up since it seems an opportune time to
Absolutely, yes.
increase the capability of the road. And also on drainage, I think that we need additional storm drains there because I looked tonight before I came here from my mailbox all the way down to south to the cul-de-sac, water was standing.
Okay.
And therefore we get a lot of damage to the street.
Okay.
And you probably test that out, see where an opportune place to put that would be.
They're taking notes, so they'll be going out and taking a look at that.
Okay, and also mention maybe some of the infrastructure such as lighting may be changed. I was thinking that we should probably have some more efficient bulbs being put in or different fixtures. Because it seems that about twice a year on my Park Avenue, one of the
Bulbs are out?
things go down.
Okay.
And I was curious about access, because I'm right in the middle of this, so will I always be able to get in and out, or?
Mr. Peterson, and I know you can answer this because he's in the middle, and Mr. Kuznin would like to know how he can come in and go out.
Madam Member of the Council, Mr. Kuznia, this project will not be replacing water main, so we won't have the big cuts, so you shouldn't have a problem. You will be able to get in and out virtually every day. The one issue might be if we're replacing the curb in front of your house, then if that has to cure, you may have to park on the street. But in general, access will be remained. You may be driving on gravel, or it might be down to one lane at some times. But you will. We're not a situation where no one can get out of their homes. They got to go park on a different street every day.
All right, that's about all I have.
Well, to your item about the lighting, Mr. Albrecht can
Sure, I can address the street lighting question. We are in the project upgrading fixtures and poles that are of older age. One of the issues we have is the city where we have opportunities is putting in LED lighting fixtures where the city has opportunities to own them. Unfortunately, in many of the areas, the fixtures and poles are actually owned by Dakota Electric Company, and long story, but we're struggling a little bit with getting them to go to more modern technologies. We're working on that, so I can't guarantee that all the lights will be upgraded to something that we'd like to see immediately with the project, but we are working with them to start upgrading our lights in general in the city to LED, which would cut our costs substantially in the maintenance of those lights.
And I noticed on the taxes that we have a street lighting fee that we're paying. That's
Correct.
what I was wondering.
Yes, that pays for the electricity to operate those lights, so we're conscious of trying to make them more efficient, and so we are working with Dakota Electric to try to do that.
Okay, I'd like an update on that, too. Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Please come forward, give us your name and address for the record.
My name is John London, 13111 Parkwood Drive. And I guess I had one question since he zoomed through the PowerPoints at a rather accelerated rate. The linear foot cost, that was what for residential owners on the Parkwood? I think
Mr. Peterson?
$28.12 a foot.
Okay. Would I be able to get that off the city website or something?
I will give you my card, and we can talk.
Okay. Thank you. Next.
John Brackney. I live at 13326 Nicollet Lane. And this would be, I guess, pertaining to all of that pavement that goes through that area right there. And I don't know whether there would be sewer work being done in there at that time as well. And the other thing that I'd like to say is on Nicollet Lane, the speed limit is 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And we have a real problem with that. And I don't know what it would cost to put in 2 speed bumps at different areas. Asking a lot, isn't it? The other thing that really gets me is the intersection of Nicollet Lane and Woodland Drive.
Yeah.
People don't stop there.
I have
Valley High and Nicollet Lane, people don't stop there. I live right there, and I've seen so many near misses, it's just crazy. And I don't know, a stop sign, a yield sign, a speed bump, whatever. And I guess I understood it that all the projects would start around May, and the blacktop would be done by
Before Labor Day.
before Labor Day.
Yeah. Your project is by far the longest that we have.
Yeah.
So to get done by that time, they're going to have to start. And maybe could start in June and get done by that day, but our completion date will be right before Labor Day.
And see, I live on a funny lot, and maybe I should just contact your website.
Or have a
It's got like
conversation.
it's got 4 sides. I have one lot I pay taxes on, but it's too small to build on. But it came with my package when I bought my home 15 years ago. And is the assessment the same thing on that lot as well as the one that I live on?
Mr. Peterson, maybe he can help you afterwards and give you a lot of information that you would help. And also, let me, speed bumps.
Yeah.
I know everyone would like to see a speed bump. The difficulty with speed bumps is our ambulance service finds it very hard to try and get to the incident in a quick way, and then also to exit when you're going to be bumping over those.
Sure.
So what we would like to do, perhaps Mr. Albrecht and our chief can take a look at that intersection and see what else we can
And
do
those
to
2
help.
signs would be tremendous helps in that area.
Okay.
We'll have our traffic safety committee take a look at that, and we'll get in touch with you on those issues. And we'll probably get in touch with you ahead of time to make sure we understand fully the issues and concerns you have. So, okay?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. John Seward, 13505 Nicollet Lane. Dave's a neighbor of mine. He lives down the street from me a little bit. I live, Timberland comes right down here, and we're on Nicollet Lane, and it is literally a racetrack. We have dogs. We've had kids before. The neighborhood's full of dogs and kids. It's tough to really have a neighborhood with no sidewalks, and the speed bumps would be, I don't like speed bumps. I'm a car guy. But
It'll ruin your car.
Somebody is going to get hurt there. I'm telling you. They come over Timberland. I walk the dogs in the morning.
He's really not kidding.
I mean, it's,
45 miles an hour.
oh, sometimes much, much faster. I'm an old drag racer. I know speed. And and I talked to an officer once, and they put it in last summer, I believe, one of those automated radar things.
Yeah.
And it was right in front of my house.
Yeah.
And I watched the numbers, and it was startling. But it did slow things down a little bit.
Maybe
and the
we
other
should-
thing on that whole street,
Yeah.
we don't have a single street light. It's just, it's like Transylvania or something there. And so, you know, I understand the ambulance problems, you know, I really do. But we want to keep the ambulances off that street and
That's
not be
right.
hitting anybody, you know. So I'm just suggesting that if there's something we could do while we're going to have that whole street torn up, if somebody could just take a look, just spend a week there off and on and look how the traffic comes, put the radar gun on it, you won't believe what you see.
Okay. We'll have Mr. Albrecht and our safety group take a look at all of that.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much and for coming and talking to us. Thank you. Mr. Jacques. Okay.
Again, my name is Paul Jacques. I live at the Real Life Cooperative in Burnsville, and I'm also on the board of directors. And my comments are for the board and the people who live in real life. We want to thank you very much for the wonderful job you did on Pillsbury last year, and especially to Ryan and his team for working with us to handle the traffic in and out of the project. It was quite a wonderful experience. And if it's half as good on Pillsbury, then we're going to be in great shape. So if anybody is concerned about the city cooperating with them and with special issues, I think we can allay those concerns because they did a wonderful job. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming and telling us that. Yes. Thank you. Very good. Next. Good evening.
Charles Van Gilder Valley
Yes.
High Road.
Hello. It's good to see you. It's been a long time, Mr. Van Gilder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a hard time of speaking as loud. I've had oral
Surgery.
major surgery, the lower jaw, and I don't have any teeth on the right. And I pulled up a piece of muscle to put over the top of it. So,
Wow.
the items, they spoke of them stop signs or on Woodland Drive and Nicollet Lane too. I've noticed that. But over to the north at that point where it meets Timberland Knolls, goes on to Nicollet Avenue, has two stop signs there. And I've seen them coming up Timberland and keep going right straight through. And I think you should suggest a sign there that the traffic off from Nicollet Avenue has the right of way, because they can't stop, because it'd back up the traffic on Nicollet Avenue. Another thing, in regards to the 5% that you have mentioned for the monies, and I talked to a credit union yesterday, and they have a line of credit that anyone can get at the credit union at 3.5%. So if anyone is interested at the credit union over in Napa Valley.
So you're doing an advertising for a credit union so people can pay for their assessments, and it's only 3%.
Well, I'm interested in pointing out what's available to the public people at a lower rate than the 5.
Yeah.
So
very nice.
They have a line of credit of 3.5.
Okay, and it's the credit union in Apple Valley.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay.
The name isn't probably commercially mentioned, I suppose, at this type of meeting.
I don't care.
You can mention it.
Sure, go ahead.
You can mention
Go
the
ahead.
credit union.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Wings.
Wings, okay. Wings Credit Union.
Anyone in the 7-county area can
Yeah.
join that credit union and get a line of credit, meaning the line of restrictions, anywhere where you try to borrow money.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And with I put in sewer, hooked up the sewer. My house is there 10 years before the street was put in. And I was first there 53 years ago. And the house is so close to the sewer line slant, only 7 inches to spare. So you can't raise the sewer line without the city putting in a city pump, sump pump.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be correct, Mr. Lawyer?
Yeah. I think if you want to talk, you can talk to Mr. Peterson about.
Well, I mean, I'm just mentioning it, so when you're going through there, don't
Hit the sewer line. That's what I meant. Mr. Peterson will need to know that fact. So when he's working with the contractor, he can let them know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good to see you, Mr. Van Gelder. I hope you feel better.
Well, I'm here all the way around here yet, and that was back in July.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello, my name is Joan White, and I live at 13409 Wentworth Avenue. When I read the notice, I was curious enough to make a call to the city to find out how much of this project would be accruing interest. I noticed that and also again in the slides today, of a little over $7 million for this project, about $3.8 million will have interest on its cost. The bonding that the city will need to do, and the assessments, although now we have a cheaper way if we want to finance it, the assessments. I want to bring this up, not in terms of wanting to impede our fixing the streets, bringing things up to order. I think that that's an excellent thing to do. It's a way to keep our property values up. It's a way to help banks when they're making decisions on whether or not they're going to foreclose on people who are late with their payments. If the property around them is holding their value, they're more likely to give loans. We're in a much better position than some other places. But I think that we could be stronger here in Burnsville. For years, during great economic times, we all went full speed ahead with projects. In my work, in government work, we borrowed because the return on our investment was unbelievable. No matter what project we seemed to get involved with in the 70s and 80s and even into the 90s, we just kept making money despite our decisions. That's no longer the case. I see and hear everywhere where people who used to talk a lot about borrowing and stock markets and things like that are now asking the general public to save. I think that in our city we would be well informed if we were to look at how it is that we're financing our improvements, look more at escrow, and yet this is the balance, and this is why you guys, I'm sure, get the big bucks, is that we need to balance in that we want to keep our property values up, we want to keep our street maintenance up. So that's the first reason I came. And then the second reason is one of the things that's really, I thought, was unclear in the material and in the presentation. It's in the assessment. I happen to see a neighbor of mine from across the street, and he has two-sided lot. A neighbor of mine two doors down has a 3-street lot. It's really unclear to me as to how the assessments are done for people who have more than a front.
And we do have a formula that's been in place for, I would say, 20 years, for about 20 years. And Mr. Peterson, do you want to talk about the front foot on the main side and then on the side?
Sure.
Okay.
We assess the 100% of the short side of the lot, and then we divide the long side in half. So you pay 100% of your short side, and you pay 50% of the long side. So although you will be having a higher assessment than someone with only the one frontage, there is a break for corner lots from that perspective.
So for my neighbor that has 3 streets, will he be paying 150 and 50?
On 3 streets, which is rather uncommon, you still only have to pay for 2 sides. The other side is different.
So that's not the best news. I happen to live in an area that's got all kinds of streets that run through it. So I'm thinking that out of the 5 of us that live on our block, only one person has one side. So.
And everybody has 2 sides or 3 sides?
Yes, yes. Okay. And, and everybody else who comes through my neighborhood to go to the other parts of the neighborhood has to come down Woodland or Timberland. And that's everybody, and I don't know how many houses are down there, need to go by our street. So I think for one guy it's really an unfair situation. For most of us it's just a slightly unfair situation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Next.
Wei Li. The street is number 5, Woodland Drive, Burnsville. When I talk about number 5, nobody believes it's 5. It's only 5. I say, really, it's just 5. So I'm the first house on that street.
Yes.
I only moved here for 7 years. When I moved here, the first project, they tried to put a telephone pole in front of my driveway. When they put on that, just right next to my driveway. It's not necessary, because next to me is a wood lot. It's empty wood lot. So I request them move it to the wood side. Don't right next to my driveway is a pole about that high. It's really inconvenient. You might bump on it or whatever. So that day when they tried to dig on it, my husband was sleeping, so he don't care. When I drove home, I saw that. I asked them, "Are you put the pole on next to my driveway?" They say yes. So I stopped them. I say, "Don't do it until I talk to the city." So finally, I forced them move it to the side. So now it's better.
Okay.
But the other thing is, I'm really proud to. I only moved here 7 years. I'm really proud about to live in Burnsville, because I moved from a small town to Burnsville. I passed Burnsville many years, but I never get out to look at how Burnsville like. But when I move here now, I think Burnsville should be more modern. But front of my house, see, even my house built in 1962, maybe 40 some years old. But front of the house, next to the wood lot, is the light pole, the electric wire.
Okay.
The tree is, every time the storm coming, they bend really low, you know.
Okay.
I thought now we are making a new street. My husband excited. So, well, but I have 100 feet wide, so I may need to pay $3,000, but we don't mind. The same time, we think maybe we can make a new driveway, you know, to match your new street. But next to that, that electric wire should be buried underground. Because this is a modern city, only have that front of me, have the electric wire, have the old pole there. So I hope the city will consider to bury that under the street.
Who is your utility? Is that XL or Dakota Electric?
It's Dakota Electric, I believe.
Dakota Electric.
Yeah,
So
maybe city can coordinate with them to have to bury that. First thing is the look. The second thing is safety. Too.
Yeah. Mr. Peterson.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'm sorry I missed your name.
Wei Li.
Wei Li.
Yes.
Nice to meet you. Basically, if the neighborhood was wanted to organize, I'd be glad to help them, but the cost of that would be
Only
borne.
my section. They don't have that.
The costs, I'm just saying, the city does not fund burying those. They, in the Dakota Electric or no other private utility will do that at their cost. If it's there for them, they're happy with it. So if you want that done, I can try and help the neighborhood through it. But it would have to be funded by the residents.
See, because other city, I don't, if you have a house like 20 some years old, they don't even have that electric wire because the safety. On the time, I need to call the electricity company to trim the tree.
Yes.
Because the tree getting bigger, they bending.
Yes.
When they bend down, the car drive by is very dangerous.
Mrs. Lee, you bring up a very good point. And other neighborhoods, see, the newer neighborhoods, your neighborhood is 40 years old.
Yeah.
So when the developer built that neighborhood, all of the electrical lines were above ground. The more recent neighborhoods, they buried the electrical lines. So, but
I think because we're having a new street done, that will be the best time to improve.
You're right, but the thing is, we don't own the electrical company.
Yes.
It's private, and so that negotiation will have to take place between you and the electrical company, and I don't know if they're going to be open to that. Mr. Eveling?
Madam Mayor and council members, I think Mr. Peterson was indicating, though, that the city might be able to be a catalyst.
To facilitate,
because
yes.
then, but there would be a cost to the property owners, and there would have to be a process to make sure that the whole neighborhood would do it. I don't think that they would do it simply for Mrs. Lee's home only.
Yeah.
But the neighborhood might be able to band together and for some charge that the city would help them to finance
But
the power
actually,
lines.
the safety for the whole street,
Yeah.
the Burnsville, you don't want something, because that wire happen and hit on the car or kill the people. It doesn't matter for me now because I don't live here forever, so I may move anytime, anybody don't know how long they will live in the place. But just like somebody was saying, we need to watch out the traffic, the danger part or the timberland. It's the same issue, the safety.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And perhaps, Mr. Ebley?
Well, Madam Mayor, if Mrs. Lee is interested in that and can talk to her neighbors and develop a good, strong neighborhood consensus, I think that
We
Mr.
can help to
Peterson then would
facilitate.
sit down and that might be able to be facilitated. But you'd have to find out if there's good support for it in the neighborhood.
Yes. Mrs. Lee, Mr. Peterson will work with you.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
Do give me a call.
I will. I give you.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name's Colin Moss. I live on 409 Valley High Road, and I just have a couple concerns about the project from accessibility standpoint.
Okay.
I think there's several people in the neighborhood that are in power chairs, and I just want to make sure that we will be able to access our driveways for the whole project.
Yeah. Mr. Peterson, if you can have a conversation with Mr. Moss and then,
Sure can. I can address it.
okay.
Yes.
That'd be great, because I have probably several other things to talk about, too,
Okay.
offline on that.
On this particular area, we will be replacing the water main. What we're doing in water main replacement areas is we take off half the pavement where the water main is being replaced. The other side stays hard surfaced. So generally, it's almost like a one-lane road situation. So there will be some inconvenience. You certainly will know we're there, but you will be able to get through. The situations where that might not be available is if we are actually digging right in front of the driveway. Obviously, you can't get in and out, but we let people know ahead of time when we'll be there. And then the other time is when we're actually pouring curb and gutter. In those situations, that's when we're done with all the utilities. Now you can't get through your driveway for 2 or 3 days. And the reason for that is we're going to let the concrete cure. You will be able to park on street overnight then, adjacent to the homes though. So accessibility, of course, is not going to be as good as it is when we're not there, but we do everything we can to get people in and out. It's not one of those projects where everyone's parking outside the project every day.
Okay. Second, I'd like to speak about the speed bump issue.
Yes.
Because of the type of vehicle that many people that have power chairs use, speed bumps are horrible. And I would strongly argue against putting street speed bumps in our neighborhood, because you literally have to almost stop to get over them, and they tear up the bottom of the vehicle. And if you forget that they're there, you'll bounce that person right out of the chair. So I would.
Yeah. Well, our fire and paramedics would agree with you.
Okay. So I just wanted to get that on record.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Moss. Next. Yes, please.
Maybe not, but otherwise.
Yeah. Mrs. Schwab. Yes.
I apologize for not, as I'm sitting here, I recall that Evergreen, a few years ago when Evergreen was redone, it was done while school was going on. And I'm thinking if Park Avenue, if it could be done not when school's going on, because that's the main walkway for all the kids going to school, if that could be adjusted or...
Mr. Peterson.
Madam Mayor, member of the community, I'll admit I made a mistake on that situation. I should have had no work until school's out in this project. I promise the contractor will not be able to start on Park Avenue until school's out.
Okay.
Okay. That's good. Great. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes.
My name is John Scoven, and I live on Woodland Drive in Wentworth there with Joan White was just here talking to me. Now I'd like to know on it over there, I have a lot and a half on it there, which at the time when I reading in there what the assessments were going to cost about on it over there. Well, that's 138 feet. Almost all the lots around that area there, they're all 90 feet on it over there. The Wentworth side has 126 feet. Now, I don't know on it over there that why, just because the person is living on a corner lot on it there on Wentworth, there's 1, 2, 3. My neighbor behind me, his front's on Wentworth. Joan White there, she's on Wentworth over there, right across the street from my garden. And there's a house next door to it, but their front of her place is off Ridge Road on it over there now. I think that's kind of out of line there when you got 126 feet to take and pay for that there when there's only 3 houses there, and Wentworth is only a block or long from Valley High Road to Woodland Drive. I go walking by there every day almost, and that's that. In other words, there's 3 houses that's got to do with that there, and because they face Wentworth, but my lot line is on Wentworth there also, but I don't think that 126 feet is way too high assessment. That from what I understand here on it there, I heard him say that it's going to be. We'll know more about it there in August, and when are they going to start to work on this on the street here now next month?
In May.
In May.
Yes. And I think Mr. Peterson can sit down with you and really look at your lot and give you an estimate, sir.
Yeah, well, that's what I want to find out because I think
he can help you. There is another hearing, a hearing that you'll have here where people will come in and take a look at it. Am I correct, Mr. If I remember all your process?
Madam Mayor, the best thing to do is just give me a call on an
Okay.
individual basis.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Mr.
we'll
Scoven?
have
Yeah.
these types of assessment things sorted out before we get to that hearing so that they know exactly what the situation is.
Okay, Mr. Scoven, Mr. Peterson's card, and then he can sit down and talk with you about and take a look at your lot line.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Give me a call.
Anyone else?
Give me a call tomorrow. I'll be happy to talk with you. Okay, nice to meet you.
Any time that it's going to be?
I got voicemail, so otherwise I'll give you a call back.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Please.
Okay, if you're speaking, please come up and give us your name and address for the record.
My name is David Wilbur, 13400 Wentworth. I live on the on Valley High Road in Wentworth on a corner lot. And I wasn't sure on those figures, but I have 175 on one side and 125 on the other side. I figured it was $8,436 according to your 28. Got 12 cents per lot. But then you mentioned something about 50% off, or on a shorter lot, you only
Longer one.
Longer
lot.
Yeah.
Oh, so it'd be 70. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, have a conversation with him, and he'll take a look at it and give you an estimate.
Okay.
Yes.
Another question.
Yes.
The cement apron. If you're replacing the water main, are you replacing the cement apron also?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes, if we have to take it out, we will, and if we do take out concrete, we put concrete back in.
And who has to pay for it? Do we have
There's
to pay for that?
There's no additional charge. The only additional charge you would have is if you did have asphalt and you wanted to go to concrete. But if you already have concrete now, you will not pay additional beyond what you're already paying.
Okay. Is there going to be gas line interruption or any type of gas line repair or in that area?
There is none that we are aware of at this time. If CenterPoint would make that choice on their own.
Okay.
So-
I was just curious. I did see some white flags running through my yard that said preferred route. Do you know anything about that? I had never seen them before. I just hadn't happened to see them.
You can give me a call. We'll send our
Yeah.
right-of-way guy out there to take a look at them.
Okay.
If you want us to.
Take Mr. Peterson's card.
Okay.
and,
All right.
and he can help you.
Popular. All right.
Thank you,
What's your assessment?
Mr. Wilbur. Yes.
All right. Nice to meet you.
Lauren Kuznanen again.
Yes, sir.
14202 Park Avenue. Did I hear something about a phosphorus reduction program?
Yes. Mr. Peterson? Yes.
Yes. Basically, part of what the project we're going to do is implement a phosphorus reduction from the stormwater, so that water that comes from Park Avenue north of 143rd Street that drains into that pond and then into Lake Alamagnet will be reduced. There will be a big study done in the very near future where we know we're going to have to reduce that. So this will be a way to get out in front of it at a cheaper cost to the city.
Well, I was thinking about that because between my unit and one to the south, it gathers all the water from the hillside, which is quite a slope. They use it for tobogganing. And when we have a heavy rain, it's about 10 feet wide and 2 feet deep, going full speed down to the thing. I was wondering if the association would get any funding or something to put in a rain garden or whatever. I'm not sure what you're doing for reduction.
Mr. Peterson?
I think maybe what you should do is just give me a call and we can talk about the roads and
Yes.
talk about this, and then I can set you up with our Natural Resources Department. They're the ones who would be administering any grants
The rain grant.
for rain.
Yes.
They could give you more of the details. I'm not quite as familiar as I could be. I don't want to tell you incorrectly.
What is the one that's just off of Park Avenue? I think I saw it on your slide. What are you doing there?
The phosphorus.
On Park? I'm sorry. On
Just
Park,
off of Park on the
on
blue
Park
side.
Place, that's the one cul-de-sac. There we're going to build in some underground infiltration areas where the water that comes in will soak into the earth. The soils there are good. On the one where there's two cul-de-sacs on either side of Park Avenue, there we're going to have more of a system where you put sand and iron into a pipe, and the iron will actually makes the phosphorus stick to it, and you can remove phosphorus that way.
Oh. Okay.
Simple.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Next.
One of your card too. Well, then I thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Rup Noreen Budu. I live at 13500 Grand Avenue. That is Grand Avenue and Woodland, and many people are here from that same area that's been talking. It is a little surprise to me. I didn't know that because I'm at a corner, I end up paying for both sides. So that was a surprise to me when I'm here. But I would also like to ask if you have to do any concrete work, for whatever reason, whether it be the driveway, who is responsible for long-term maintenance on that concrete work? Does it become my responsibility after, or the city?
Mr. Peterson.
The city owns all the curb and gutter.
Curb.
The apron would be owned by the resident.
What you call the apron?
The apron is the area that you drive your car over to get from your driveway to the street, if that's concrete.
You know, the reason I'm asking that, you've done some work south of 136, and I've heard complaints that since that, which is about 2-3 years ago, the concrete is already deteriorating, while mine is over 40 years and is still intact.
Okay.
And those are already
is
turned into sand.
the concrete for the curb or for the
driveway.
apron, for the driveway?
That you enter. And mine has been there about 40 years, still intact with all the salt that normally I hear they blame. And these folks out, I've heard them complaining that the driveway, the entrance, the cement is already turning to sand.
Okay, Mr. Peterson.
We leave as many of those aprons in as we can because concrete, by its nature, keeps getting stronger as it gets older. So yours that is that age has a greater chance of resisting cracking than a newer one. So we leave as much in as we can. In that area, though, a lot of them are going to have to go. So we do certainly have a warranty of a 1 year, and most of the concrete that gets damaged in the first year. So if there is something, typically it comes out. If after a couple of years it just totally falls apart, we've certainly worked with property owners on that before to replace that, not at the property owner's expense.
I'm just raising the question because many folks have said to me that, and some of you know me, and I go to the Y, and the Y is facing the same problem. Every year they're fixing the place you walk into the Y. Every year, as though the composition of the material is not right. So I'm raising that because that means doing this, I may end up with a long-term issue.
Mr.
But anyway,
Boudou,
I would
I
like
think
to talk to him about the
have a conversation with Mr. Peterson,
Okay.
and they'll take a look at your apron, and if there's a way of preserving it without destroying it, they will do their best.
Good, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next. With that, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, I need a motion to adopt standard resolution A4 and order the improvements and approve the plans and specifications.
So moved.
Councilmember Coughlin makes the motion. Second by Councilmember Keeley. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you.
She saw me move, but it was actually.
Oh, it's Councilmember Gustafson. Okay, see that
We
too.
share some of these.
I know. I did. I did listen, and it's coming from. Thank you. Item number 6, and this is also a public hearing, and it's to consider a resolution ordering the project, approve the plans and specifications, and order the advertisement for the 2012 street rehabilitation project. Mr. Peterson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Once again, 2012 street rehabilitation projects 12-102 A, B, and C. A is Nicollet Avenue area, B is South Cross area, C is Portland area. What is rehabilitation? That's different than reconstruction. That's basically resurfacing. We mill down 2 inches, we put it back, we fix curb and gutter, sidewalk, that sort of thing while we're there. We make utility repairs to the structures, that sort of thing. One project that is different than most of our rehabs is the Nicollet Avenue. The difference is there, that is between Burnsville Parkway and Civic Center Parkway. That's our last phase of that 36-inch water main project, all the way from our treatment plant up to here, so we can phase out our old concrete water main pipe. So that project is more than just the typical work. That'll be taking place in the northbound lanes of Nicollet Avenue. And why this also is different is we can't really start that work until after the Burnsville Fire Muster. And the reason is we have to get into that big reservoir we have here on this campus, and we can't pump water out of that reservoir while we're doing this work. So all the people are watering their yards in the middle of summer. Either has to get done right away or towards the end of the year, and we aren't able to get that done right away. So this project will not be done by September. In fact, it really won't even have started until after the hearing, but all the rest of the work should be done on our schedule that I've talked about before. With that, the Nicollet Avenue rehabilitation is Burnsville Parkway Nicollet Avenue from Burnsville Parkway to Civic Center Parkway. And once again, that's the northbound lanes only. The remainder of Nicollet Avenue will likely be rehabilitated in the next 4 or 5 years or so. Pictures of that area, obviously these don't look as bad as the Recon area. The reason we're trying to resurface these before they get to that level. But this is Nicollet Avenue, another one in Nicollet Avenue, and one final one. So that's what that one's about. South Cross Drive rehabilitation is South Cross Drive from Corporate Center Drive down to Judicial Road, Rosemont Drive from Corporate Center Drive down to South Cross Drive, and one small section of Ames Drive from County Road 5 to about 400 feet west of County Road 5. South Cross Drive, this is what that road looks like at this time. Definitely in need of resurfacing. And then here's Rosemont Drive. On this picture, this whole area here has already been patched by our street department, so it looks okay, but it needs to be resurfaced most certainly. And the same thing in this area. This is one long continuous patch that they've done. Ames Drive, that's what this road looks like at this time, and is in need of the same resurfacing, but not reconstruction at this time. Portland Avenue area, that includes Portland Avenue from 35E down to Carmel 42, including the 3 cul-de-sacs to the west, and then 1 to the east, and then 2 other cul-de-sacs known as Portland Place and Portland Mews. Pictures of that area. This is what Portland Avenue looks like. Another one of Portland Avenue. Here's what the cul-de-sac looks like. This one's quite a situation. Really bad. There. So funding for this project, no infrastructure trust fund. They're all in state routes, so we should be able to pay for that all with our state aid account, which is good news. Special assessments, about $250,000. Water and sewer funds, $1.5 million. That's much, much higher than our typical rehab, and that's for that 36-inch water main work that we're doing. $85,000 out of our storm sewer fund for a total of just over, estimated total over just over $3 million. On this project, the special assessments is shown only as 8%, and that is skewed a bit because of all that big infusion for the sewer and water. But this project typically is a little less percent assessments than recon because we're doing those wider roads. Special assessments, once again, they're based upon 40% of the street costs. That rate's set yearly, and we figure out what the cost to do a similar project for the past 3 years and get the average, and then figure out what 40% of that cost is, and that's what our assessment rate is based on. Also, once again, based upon the land use. So if you have a wider road in your neighborhood streets, you don't have to pay for the entire wide road, and vice versa. It's implemented by the amount of footage adjacent to the street being rehabilitated, so you get that rate, multiply it by the footage, and that's the assessment cost. And all the other street costs and utility costs are paid by those revenue funds and the infrastructure trust fund or state aid account. We will finance the assessments once again on this project. Under 1 year is, or under $100 is 1 year, under $500 to 100 is 5 years, and then over 500 is 15 years. The rates are significantly less on rehabilitation than reconstruction. $10.59 per foot for single family parks open space, $13.20 per foot for multifamily and manufactured housing land uses, and $17.51 for all other land uses. The interest rate is the same, 5%. So with that, I stand for any questions, and this is a public hearing.
Any questions for Mr. Peterson? Okay, thank you, Mr. Peterson. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone to speak to this item? Is there anyone to speak to this item? Please come. Okay. And then Mrs. Lee, you wanted to speak to this item as well? Yes, you can talk with Mr. Peterson and he can help you. But, sir, your name and address for the record.
My name is Don Zimmerman, and I live at 14406 Portland Avenue. I'm all for this reconstruction, and I appreciate it. Thank you, because we surely need it. But I have a question on the assessment.
Okay.
We live in on a cul-de-sac, in a townhouse, and it's a quad.
Mm.
It's my understanding only the people that their property abuts the street are going to be assessed. The people that live behind us in that quad are not going to be assessed. Mm-hmm. And yet they have to use that road in front of our house to get to their garage and driveway. And I think that's totally unfair.
I think we're trying to address that issue. Mr. Peterson.
Interestingly enough, there's two situations. There's the one where there's a similar situation south of his.
Yes.
Can you hold off till our next item, and I could address this a little more?
Yeah.
Maybe that way it won't get confusing what the deal is. But
and we're trying to fix that because we're discovering now that there are those issues, even with a homeowners association where only a few of the homeowners are up to the street.
Right.
So now we're addressing that issue because now those streets, when they first came in into the system, didn't need to be reconstructed, and so now they need to be reconstructed, and our policy needs to reflect the way the complex is put together. Okay.
Because again, the people that live behind us,
yes,
they have to use that street,
that's
so
right.
They should pay too.
Yes, Mr. Peterson.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, we have the situation where it's being dealt with, and those are more on 2 cul-de-sacs north. There is a separate homeowner association that's south where the gentleman lives, and that situation is not occurring there. So we
Okay.
have talked to that association, but I'll get into more into that.
Okay.
Well, thank you, because we surely need the reconstruction, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. And take Mr. Peterson's card. Okay.
Certainly.
Are you going to address this?
I'll address it, but if you want to call, I'd be happy to
Okay,
speak
thank
with
you,
you.
sir.
All right.
Okay.
I hope you brought enough cards.
Yeah. Okay, is there anyone else to speak to this item? Anyone? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, if you have no concerns, motion to adopt standard resolution A4 and order the improvements and approve the plans and specifications and order the advertisements for bid.
So moved.
A second.
Councilmember Coughlin makes the motion, second by Councilmember Sherry. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. The next item is item number 7, and this is to consider a resolution to declare resolution declaring costs to be assessed and ordering the preparation of assessment rolls and calling for the hearing on proposed assessments for portions of project 12101 and 12-102, and this is property owners in the Portland Homeowners Association. Mr. Peterson.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, once more. This is a really interesting situation. If you're in my line of work, others might find it extremely dull. But I found it to be very interesting. I think I'm just going to go right to the maps. I think that's the best thing to do. This is 143rd Street. We talked about this as that Wood Park North by Park Avenue. So in this situation, if you can imagine, there's a building that sits like here. One owner owns here, one owner owns here, one owner owns here, one owns there, and then the driveways go like this. So to get there, they have to go around the back. The typical way these are laid out looks like this, whereas there's the one unit there, the one unit there, the one unit there, and then the one unit there. And the only thing that the residents own all to their own is just basically where the home sits, and then everyone shares equally in all the common land.
Spaces.
So therefore, when we take our footage, we measure this footage, and it's one assessment amount, and then we spread it equally amongst all these because that's how it's set up. So most of the most of the platting of units around town happens like this. In this situation, however, you can see the units back here never touch a street and therefore would not be subject to our assessment policy. Now, the situation is Portland Place and Portland Mews is in the same association as 143rd Street is. That's a different association than the resident who just came here. This association has requested us to look at the situation and treat them like they are like this, and that's what we are doing. We actually recognized the fact that there was the association to the south that was exactly the same. We contacted them. They talked about it at a board meeting and just said they did not want to go through this and have the council adjust it. So we recognize the situation. It could be unfortunate for the situation on that homeowner association. But this one has, this association for these lots have requested it. And so we tried to reach out to him, I guess is my point, as far as the gentleman could be disappointed, and I could understand that. But getting back to the situation at hand then, basically we're asking you to deviate from our policy, and what that would do is you'd approve the resolution declaring costs, calling for the public hearing in April. And the reason we want to do it in April, it is a deviation. When I say it's in April, we want to do it in April instead of September with everyone else. There is a little higher risk to the city. It's not following our normal policy. So to avoid that risk, we want to do it right now, and if somehow it blows up, I don't see it is. I went to their association meeting. No one stood up and said, this is unfair, I'm in the back, I shouldn't get assessed. I heard none of that. I haven't gotten a call from it. Their association president has been very active and great to work with. So with that, if there's any questions, I'm glad to ask them, but I do recommend this. I think it is more fair. And with that, it's not a public hearing, but I'll gladly stand for questions.
Any questions for Mr. Peterson? I think Councilmember Sherry.
So what you're saying is that this is unique to this situation. Mr. Zimmerman's, to get more of the people cooperating and or participating, that he'd have to go through his homeowners association. Is it that what you're saying?
Yeah, or a bunch of the residents, I guess. You know what I mean? We
So the
haven't
city
heard,
cannot arbitrarily do that for them.
maybe I'll ask the city attorney to.
Mayor and council,
Mr. Jamnick.
we could choose to do that, but because it was a deviation from the policy, we did ask that the homeowners associations requested to justify the departure. And as Ryan indicated, one has and one hasn't.
Okay, so where does Mr. Zimmerman stand in this, is what I'm asking.
Yeah. Mr. Peterson.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Sherry, I would recommend that if you want to talk to our association, you know, we won't be actually doing the other assessment till September. If they want to try to work something out, we may be able to try and work with them on it.
Okay. And so maybe, Mr. Zimmerman, if you can help us to facilitate this with your homeowners association to look at the equitable part of assessments for your street, that would be helpful. Okay. Councilmember Sherry?
Well, with that, I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Councilmember Sherry makes the motion, second by Councilmember Coughlin. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Members of the council, there are no other items to come before us this evening, and a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Keeley makes the motion, second by Councilmember Gustafson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Good night, and thank you for being with us.